This is the Business Hour in partnership with Network B2B, helping you share your passion, knowledge, and make great connections.
It's the Business Hour podcast. It's Steve over in Leeds, seeing a great presentation today from Neil. And we're going to touch on a few things, but what about dispute resolution, Neil? Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, Steve. Dispute resolution in construction is my area of expertise, and there's a whole different array of different methods of dispute resolution in construction. Most common ones and most well-known ones are probably adjudication, mediation, and then for generally bigger claims, arbitration. I can tell you a little bit about each of those three if you like.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about adjudication then.
Okay, adjudication became very commonplace in the construction industry. Getting on for about 20 years ago now. There was a piece of legislation called the Housing Grants, Construction and Regeneration Act in 1996, which introduced a statutory provision for construction contracts to adjudicate their disputes. And it was intended to be a quick and cheap method for contracting parties in a construction context to settle their disputes. So the timescale is generally set out as a 28-day process. That can be extended, but it's quite quick. So from the time you refer that dispute to getting a decision from an adjudicator is sort of a month's timescale. And the idea behind that was that during the lifetime of a project, if the parties have a dispute and fall out, that they can resolve that dispute before the contract comes to an end. So the idea is to keep the cash flow and keep the momentum of the project going and sorting their problems out as they go.
Right, so part of your role is adjudication then?
I do both parts of adjudication. So I am an adjudicator. I act as an adjudicator, which means I have parties submit their disputes to me for a decision. But I also act as what's called a party representative, so I can help put the parties' claim together and represent them in making their submissions to another adjudicator to have their dispute and their viewpoint heard.
So Neil, if somebody wants to find out more about the adjudication and how we help them, how can they get in contact with you?
A number of ways. They can go to my website, which is www.NCGB Consulting UK. I'm quite active on LinkedIn, so I can be found on there. Or they email me, neil@ncgbconsulting.uk.
Brilliant. Well, look, thanks for joining us today on the Business Hour podcast, and we'll be catching up with you again very soon to talk about mediation.
Thanks, Steve.
Like to share news about your business, event, seminar, or workshop? Simply email steve@stevetwynham.com. This is the Business Hour in partnership with Network B2B, helping you share your passion, knowledge, and make great connections.
The Business Hour podcast is produced and presented by Steve Twynham. Copyright applies.